So what I do is I'm the Mid-Atlantic recruiter for Penn State, which includes Baltimore metro areas and DC metro areas, but also the entire state of Virginia, Maryland, and Delaware. So I'm your point person as far as if you're looking at Penn State. We'll talk about in a minute. Any one of our campuses, we're a multi-campus system, a little bit different than most other states that you might encounter. So a little bit of information right off the bat we'll give you. According to the World University Rankings, which puts a lot of weight on research, we're a top 50 international school that comes out. We have over 275 different academic majors, and about 180 of those minors as well for the undergraduates, plus of course, master's and doctorate programs that comes through. Our graduation rate is one of the higher aspects, in the nation of about 85%. And remember, the national average of graduation is somewhere in the 60s, so forth. So we feel really happy and proud about our overall graduation compared to a national average. It kind of comes out. And in retention rate, if you're not familiar with the term retention rate, that is students that started the freshman year, completed the freshman year, and start classes the first day of the sophomore year. So 93% of our students do that. Once again, the national average is somewhere high 70s, maybe 80%. So once again, well above the national average as far as students and returning. And that losing students is a very low number. And unfortunately, sometimes, especially in years like this year, where people have lost jobs, it's usually due to financial reasons that we do lose some students and so forth. So we'll come in. So Penn State has 20 unique campuses all around the state of Pennsylvania. So we're really different in a structure and a system. We're really not a system, we're really one school that has different places. So like in Maryland, you have College Park and you have UMBC, Eastern Shore, Frostburg, those are all part of a state system. But you really think about them as, different schools. You apply to them different, you have different expectations for them, and so forth. But at Penn State, we're one school. We just have 20 different locations that kind of come through. So here's a quick map of Pennsylvania. And as you'll see, the closest campus to the Baltimore area is the York campus right up Interstate 83. And it kind of comes through. You'll note on this, there's a little bit of designations of different campuses. Those campuses that have either the red or orange colored markers, like housing markers or monopoly housing markers, those are the ones that we have on-campus housing at. So there are 12 of those campuses, and then you'll see there are 8 just distinct blue dots, like York, and that is a commuter campus. So sometimes we have students that live in the northern Maryland near the PA border that may choose to go to York and drive from home each day. So there are some students that live up in Carroll County, for instance, that do that, and some other northern counties, Hereford County and so forth too. But if you're coming in from a distinct and you want that, I'd say experience, make sure you're picking a campus that has housing. The 2 that have the red designations, University Park, that's our largest campus, and then Erie, Penn State Barron. Those campuses actually have mandatory housing that you must live on campus your freshman year. That comes through, where the other 10 campuses don't have a requirement necessarily that you must live on campus. So you could jump right into an apartment or those kind of things too. But I'll tell you right now, most parents are not too happy about freshmen living in apartments. They want you in housing typically. It kind of comes through. And so we just want students to know that no matter where you go in Penn State, you're going to have high quality academics. You'd have the same set of courses. Typically, freshmen at any campus might have exactly the same courses. If it's CAS 100, English 15, Math 21, Math 140, Psych 1, whatever the course is, you're typically going to have the same kind of schedule opportunities within your academic area and your major. But each campus does provide that kind of unique opportunities that you might have. It comes through too. One thing that really sets us apart from universities nationwide is not just the aspect that we offer undergraduate research, is that the level of university research that we offer as well. We're able to offer right now in all of our majors at Penn State members, 275 different programs. Any student that wants to take part in research, we are able to accommodate them right now. Now, we're not saying that every student takes advantage of that, There are some majors that is a requirement, especially in the engineering areas, but many majors don't have it as a requirement, but just be aware it is an available resource. And it's a really good thing as far as an experience along with an internship that most other national college students don't have. So this really sets you apart once you get to that point where you're interviewing for a job, looking at grad school. If you've already got some research under your belt, it really sets you apart from the other national students that come through too. Like I said before, couple that with an internship. This is actually one of our students, and this is actually, she's working at the NBC channel 4 down in DC. So this is actually in DC right here. And one of our communications journalism majors is doing an internship, and we have many of these kind of internships. With all of our majors, every major has an internship program. Every academic area will have an internship or co-op coordinator that you'll work with. So in addition to your regular advisor, you'll meet with the internship advisor to help you get those kind of opportunities that will help, like it says here, launch your career and help give you some experience in the field that you're interested in. It kind of comes through. Another great opportunity, Penn State, a large number, one of the largest study abroad programs in the nation. Study abroad programs, like 300 different places in the world. Every major has maybe a distinct place they go to, but many majors, there are some places where different majors might be actually going to the same place that coming through. So half of our programs end up being based on your major. The other half are cultural programs, where it doesn't matter what your major is, but you're choosing to go to a place because you're interested in the culture in that region or that area and so forth that comes through. And then the next kind of thing that kind of dovetails that a little bit, because the honors program is considered a nationally ranked honors program. So those higher elite students at the university, typically we start 16 to 17,000 students at our 20 different campuses. And in the Schreier honors program, there'll be just 300 students selected for that. And those programs are very sought after. It is a research focused program. There are a lot of other side benefits too. Going back to the study abroad, if you do study abroad, they typically give you a travel grant with that. And so let's say you're going to Europe on your study abroad, they'll give you money so you can stay and use that money to travel, get like a Euro train pass, maybe even stay after your study abroad experience over for a month and live in used hostels, take the train, experience all parts of Europe, not just where you had your study abroad program too. Clubs and activities, very vibrant part of life at Penn State. When we're looking at the application for admission, we're looking at students that are active in high school, because that's what our students are. You want students to be active at Penn State. You can see that a very high percentage of students are really involved. And typically most students on average are involved in 3 different clubs at the university. One typically an academic club, one kind of a service or a philanthropy type item, and then 3 more recreational or something that is kind of fun or crazy that kind of comes through. So most students that were involved in 3, you can see there's a huge number of different offerings that we offer at the university come through. And then that would kind of get some more nuts and bolts type stuff. We use an online application. So that includes our application on our website, the common application, and the coalition application. We use self-reported academic grades, so we do not require you to have a transcript sent from your school. You actually go in the application and you fill out your information since 9th grade. You give us all your courses and you fill in the grades. So you probably need a transcript or some kind of record that you're going to use to put that information in. So somewhat it's kind of an honor system, students. So we are not requiring a direct transcript from you or from the school at this point. We do. One other item is a little bit different. We've got to talk about this year because of the COVID, is that for this fall, so if you're a rising senior and applying to Penn State for 2021, the test scores are going to be optional. So that's your choice if you want to include your test scores and not include them. We don't make a definition of, but if the basic message is if you think your ACT or SAT scores are going to help you, please submit them, and there'll be an indicator on the application where you can choose, yes, I want to use my test scores, or I want to opt out and not use test scores. You'll have that choice this year. If you're in a junior class or lower, quite honestly, we've not made a decision about future years as far as 2022 and beyond. But just be aware, that is something that could be a reality or a possibility in the future as well, but we'll have to make an announcement of that probably next summer. Comes through. Once you get into My Penn State Profile, really is the beginning part of the application, but definitely if you use the Coalition or Common application, you'll have to go into our Penn State website in admissions and fill out your profile. And that's also where you're going to see that self-reported academic record that comes through too. So here's a little bit of kind of information as far as, you know, expectations of where students sit as far as grade levels, SAT, ACT, and you'll see University Park listed on the first line because that is our largest campus. And then our other 19 Commonwealth campuses, we have them listed as a composite. There are differences among those, but this is kind of give you a general scale. Note it says middle 50 percentile, so a quarter of our students are above this and a quarter are below. They kind of use. When students may want to use this as a tool to look at these numbers to try to figure out if they want to go test optional or not. So if you kind of look at these scales, you know, looking at a GPA at University Park and looking at an SAT score, if your test score seems to match up with your GPA or your test score is higher than your GPA, that may be a consideration of why you might use that. Versus, you know, if it's lower for the SAT compared to the grade point average in these scales, maybe that's where you want to opt out of the test scores. So a little bit of a help as far as, you know, a little bit more information that comes through. A little bit of our timeline. Our application opens August 1st. Early action starts November 1st. And then, you know, general rolling admission starts after November 1st. And then students generally accept to any college or university to go to by May 1st of their senior year. And then a quick look at our cost. You will note that there's a Pennsylvania residency at top. We're probably focused on the next line, non-Pennsylvania residents, tuition fees, room and board, and then also that's at University Park versus those at our other 19 Commonwealth campuses. And what you'll see for out of state is we give an incentive. A lot of students from out of state know about University Park, and a lot of students apply there. Not as many apply to those smaller and medium-sized campuses that we have. And for that reason, we might give you anywhere from a, you know, $10,000 to $14,000 tuition break, considering those campuses. And then with that, we have a program where students do a 2+2, where they can go to any campus for 2 years and then decide to switch to another campus for 2 years. That is very popular for students that choose the Commonwealth campuses, save money the first 2 years, and then go to University Park to finish off their education. And that's a guaranteed transition. There's no kind of admissions process to that that we have. And it kind of comes through. A little bit more, high aid dollar one, over $1 billion in total aid. We do have a large student body, but so it means a lot of funding is going out. And you can see that as our undergraduates go, over 2/3 of our undergraduates receive financial aid. Actually, for out of state, because the tuition is higher, the number is higher than 68% for the out of state students that do receive aid that comes through. One aspect of aid is scholarship, and overall about 1 in 4 of our students receive scholarship support that comes through. And then if you want to look a little bit deeper, you know, one of the things as far as tuition and those kind of different estimates, you can put in some other figures that you might have to consider. And a quick other kind of information. So Penn State, you know, is internationally known, you know, as far as, you know, brand recognition is a name that's known nationally easily, and definitely international circles as well that comes through too. Career services, as far as placement of students into their careers, preparing them for interviews, for workshops, preparing them for, you know, going to a career fair and doing your best. So we have one of the top programs in our career services. We have the largest alumni base in the nation as well, and the largest dues paying alumni as well. And so Penn State, and that's one of the reasons we're known everywhere, is that we've kind of spread out over time, you know, all throughout the world, and there's a lot of us moving around. It kind of comes through. And then also innovation and entrepreneurship too. So no matter what your major is, we're looking around the corner and trying to help you out. As far as we know, in this current market, there's so many people doing collaborative work, so many people going out and starting their own businesses, their own .coms, that have some ideas about new kind of apps they might want to develop, or they want to use some other information. So we want students to know there are entrepreneurship programs at Penn State to get you started on that. It's not going to be just about your major. It's going to be some other tools that'll be useful in your life later on. It kind of comes out. And so that's our quick presentation. I saw a few flashes of questions, I believe, and it kind of came through here. But please note there's some information here, and then this is as your contact my email address, bghoffman@psu.edu. And I'll just leave that up. Let's see if I can get to those chat questions here.
There were quite a few questions about the honors program,
okay,
and how that works, and whether or not you recommend submitting scores if you're interested in being accepted into the honors college. So maybe you could talk a little bit more about that, how it's connected to your major.
Yeah, I think that the honors is super competitive. It's basically about 1 in 50 of our students is honors that comes through. And because of that, there's going to be a lot of students that quite honestly have, you can see that number, was about a 4.0 weighted at, no, those GPAs were weighted. So a quarter of our students have a weighted 4.0 or higher that comes through. So, I'm telling you, there's 16 or 17,000 freshmen. So that means over 4,000 students have a weighted, 4.0 or higher. That's coming, looking at us and so forth. And we're only picking out 300. So I don't think there's necessarily a requirement that you have to submit the SAT or ACT too, but definitely if you have that higher SAT score, you want to be using it. There are essays and writing things that you do use that are very important factors selecting honor students that are coming through. So I said we really lean on those SAT scores if you do provide them, because assuming they're high. But then beyond that, it really is in some ways within your academic area, somewhat of an essay contest. And that way in your academic areas. And do remember that we do not compare engineers against those communication students. The engineers are going up against each other in that kind of honor system. It kind of comes through. So, okay, I see this from Julia. Do you recommend submitting SAT, ACT scores for consideration to the honors? That's okay. That question we just answered, right? We'll get that. Okay, are you admitted to the honors program in addition to the major? So there is a separate application. That application is free. The admission application is $65, but submitting the honors application is separate. And so we do admit you first to Penn State into your academic area or your major. And then once we pass the information on the students that have been accepted, we pass it on to the honors college, and therefore therefore they just consider students that have been admitted already, and then they consider you for the honors program. So it's kind of a two-step admission for honors that kind of comes in. Okay, what are the benefits of early action versus rolling admission? Well, early action, number one, is that you get your decision early. You're gonna have your decision with us by December 24th, before we go out on break as the working staff at the university. It goes out, so you're gonna have a decision in hand by then. So that's the primary benefit of any kind of early action too. There is a possibility that we give a slight benefit to those people that applied earlier in our action, kind of acting as a rolling system. Those students that apply November versus December and then January, we look month by month and we consider students, either, early action, a November applicant, a December applicant, or January. So as you go down the calendar, the less spaces we're going to have available. And so supply and demand issues, it's going to become more difficult to get in. And so just for that reason too, I think there is, if you're listening to this program now, I think there's no reason not to apply early action. It's only going to benefit you. And there is a possibility if you wait till November, it may be more difficult to get in. It kind of comes through too. There are some majors too that may fill, they're all of their students with early action applicants as well. And what are requirements actually for honors college? There is no set information as far as SAT scores, ACT, or grades. Basically, the message from the honors college is if you feel like you're up to college honors work, we want to see your application. So that's their answer. As far as there's no necessary requirements, there's no set minimums necessarily. Although if you do, there are we do have profiles and we do, what the typical student does look like. But there are, outliers sometimes, students that you would not expect just looking at their academic record, that because in the essay portion, they really did a great job and they got into the honors program. That kind of comes in too. Also at Penn State, we have a sophomore gateway. So if you don't get in as a freshman year, and let's say you make the dean's list your freshman year, You can then reapply for the sophomore year and then get into the honors program at that second gateway that kind of comes in.
Awesome. That was great and very thorough and interesting. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm sure there'll be more questions as we go ahead. I'm excited to pass things off now to Robin and to Jackie, who are going to share a little bit of the particular lens that we're looking at in terms of what it's like to be a Jewish student on campus. Jackie will share a little bit about her experience living and attending Penn State, and I'm really excited to pass it on to you guys. So Robin.
So I think Jackie is an incredible student leader. She sits on our student executive board, and I'm going to pass it off to her and put some pictures up here for you. So give me one moment. And is this coming up for all of you guys?
Yeah.
All right. All right, Jackie, take it away.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Jackie. I'm so excited to be speaking to you today about Penn State University and what it's like to be a Jewish student at Penn State. Just a little information about me. I'm originally from Westchester, New York. I'm entering my junior year at Penn State, studying communication sciences and disorders. I saw a lot of you had questions about the honors program. I am an honors scholar at Penn State, and it has been a wonderful experience, so I highly recommend it. And I've also had amazing opportunities through Penn State to take part in research. I almost studied abroad, but we'll probably have to do that next summer due to coronavirus. And I've had lots of amazing engagement experiences. I love Penn State. I love its spirit, joy, and loyalty. I love the students. It's just been an amazing university to be a part of. So now I'm really excited to tell you about what it's like to be a Jewish student at Penn State. We have the most vibrant and amazing Jewish community, and I am so excited to be representing my organization, Penn State Hillel. Our organization serves thousands of Jewish students every year and has all kinds of programming throughout the year, including holiday programming, Israel programming, student interest communities. And another really amazing program that we have is a microgrant program to sponsor Jewish student experiences. So I've had so many cool opportunities to be a Jewish student at Penn State. I would say what makes our Jewish community so amazing is how it embraces diversity of Jewish students and Jewish experiences. I grew up in a half Ashkenazi Jewish and half Israeli Jewish home. So being able to be embraced for both of my backgrounds is something I've loved and appreciated. I also just feel an unconditional love from the Jewish staff and Jewish students that I see every day. I feel like I have family when I'm away from home, when I go to Penn State Hillel, and that is such a comforting experience for me as an out-of-state student. And many of you would be out-of-state students, so I can tell you that having that Jewish community at Penn State is wonderful. I just all around have had an amazing time at Penn State, being a Jewish student, being among the Nittany Lions, and I would just say that's my amazing overview of this university. And I'm open to any questions that you would have on the student experience.
What's a Penn State tradition, Jackie, that you look forward to every year? It's something that's really cool.
So every semester we have Israel Shabbat. So we have weekly Shabbats, and that's one of the most amazing traditions. But we have like one themed with Israeli culture. We serve Israeli food, and it's just an amazing night as a half Israeli person to like see my culture be appreciated by everyone in Hillel. So I would say that's probably my favorite tradition that Hillel does.
Nice, that sounds fun. We had a question in the chat from the Church Talks about whether or not there's a Hillel building, and maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
Yes, so at the moment we are housed in the campus's spiritual center, and we share that with many other religious groups on campus. But in the next few years, we're going to have a building downtown. It's going to be it's not all our building, it's going to be an apartment building, but we're going to have a little location in that building, and that's going to be a Hillel space, and I am so excited to see that happen.
And Erin will talk a lot more about that in just a few minutes.
Cool. I'll ask you one more question, Jackie, and I'm sure other people may as well as we go on. But what's a class that you've taken that has really, either in your major or not, that has really been meaningful to you, that you would recommend that anybody who comes to Penn State has to get into that class at some point?
Oh my goodness. I mean, I really love every course I've taken at Penn State, and I love the professors. They're so amazing and so devoted and treat you like a community member. So that's really hard, but I would say if I had to recommend a course that everyone would love, I'd say Human Development and Family Studies 129. It's basically a class about how to do life 101. It's about the science of friendship, of being a parent, of growing up in a family, of building trust, being resilient, so many other things, identity formation, how to go through aging in a healthy way, so many relationships. I mean, the list goes on, but it's just all about how to be a better human. And I loved the class. It was so interesting. The professor who's known for teaching it is like a stand-up comedian and TED Talk speaker in one. It was just my favorite class. So yeah, that's what I would recommend. If you do come to Penn State, it is a gen ed. You should definitely take it.
Cool. Jackie, thank you so much for sharing a little bit about your experience. And like I said before, I'm sure people will continue to ask questions. We already have a few more in the chat. So just as we continue to go, bear these in mind. Rebecca asked about services for the holidays, presumably High Holy Days. So maybe Robin or someone can discuss opportunities for spiritual growth on campus. And then also, question about Greek life, sororities and fraternities, and how that works also in terms of Jewish affiliation. Are there Jewish sororities on campus? And finally, Evan asked if you could put the name of that class, the Human Development class, into the chat.
Oh, there's a lot of messages coming through. Oh, thank you, Jackie. I can answer the questions about the services for holidays and also about Greek life. So we're really excited. Our new rabbi starts tomorrow. So Rabbi Rob. So services are going to look different. We offer services for Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. There's been different events around Sukkot and the other holidays. So everything that you can imagine Jewishly we do. So yeah, and everything is student run. So if students want to do something for Sukkot, then we do something for Sukkot. And we always have a beautiful sukkah, and the students help, and we give them lunch, and it's beautiful. So we don't know what the holidays are going to look like this year with COVID, but my hope is that we can go back to how things were, hopefully in the next year or so. But either way, we have Rabbi Rob starting tomorrow, and we're going to think of innovative ways to do the holidays this year, whether it's virtual or not. So I hope that answered the question from Rebecca. All right, sororities. So we have a very vibrant Greek life on campus. However, lots of students are not in Greek life, but there are lots of students in Greek life. We're trying to track that right now. There are a few Jewish sororities and a lot of Jewish students in non-Jewish fraternities and sororities, if that makes sense. So, and let's see, Shelly Sorkin asked that. Shelly, I can talk to you more offline about that question too. if you have more questions.
Could you also talk a little bit about like the denominational experience on campus and diversity there? So, I mean, Jackie touched on this too, and that was important, but you know, if I'm Orthodox, will I feel comfortable on campus? Can I access kosher food? If I have been like a nifty kid my entire life, you know, will I be able to find that community on campus as well? What if I'm still searching for kind of where I fit in and the types of ritual and practice I want to engage in?
So Jackie, I'm not sure if you want to answer some of that too. I can answer it from a staff perspective that Hillel is a pluralistic space. So our job is to make every Jewish student feel comfortable in our space and throughout campus. So to feel comfy. Oh, and Aaron said that he'll jump in too. So we have a Reform rabbi. However, Rabbi Rob and the entire Hillel staff are there for every student, no matter the denomination. There is kosher food on campus, Pure, that's the name of it. It's located in East Residence Halls. We partner with them on occasion for Shabbat. They're also gluten-free and allergen-free. So if you have any kind of dietary needs, I highly recommend Pure. It's awesome there. So we have egalitarian services on Friday nights, led by two wonderful interns. And if a student is from a more traditional background and wants to start a community of more traditional services, Hillel professionals will never say no to that. So everything that we do is student-led. And I think, Aaron, did you want to hop in there? I don't know where you are.
Yeah, I'll jump in right now. Hi, everyone. I'm Aaron Kaufman. I'm the Executive Director of the Hillel here at Penn State. I am about to start my 14th year on campus, my 20th in Hillel overall. And before I get into the specific questions around BDS and holidays, I just want to say a brief plug for Penn State. I went to the University of Michigan, although I'm not supposed to say that around here. I might hear from Brett later. And I worked at Cornell before coming to Penn State, and I would take Penn State students any day of the week. They're extremely intelligent and driven and motivated. They also know how to have fun and give back to the world around them. You know, it's no coincidence Penn State's home to the largest student philanthropy in the world, our dance marathon, which you saw pictures of during Brett's presentation. Hillel's the largest pluralistic Jewish organization in the world, and so everything we do is, of course, open to every kind of Jew, including the ones who don't know whether they're Jewish or not or where they fit. Everyone is welcome, and we do everything we can to ensure that everyone feels comfortable. There's a question in the chat about anti-Semitic incidents on campus. In the 14 years I've been here, there unfortunately have been a few incidents over the years. Universally, the university has been supportive and responsive to the Jewish community and the Jewish students throughout my time at Penn State. We work really closely, you know, from the president's office on down to ensure that the campus environment is as conducive to learning and safety and comfort for Jewish students as it can possibly be. I also want to touch on the question about the building. At least on my screen, the picture is up. So for those of you that know State College, that's the corner of Beaver Avenue and Garner Street. Campus is half a block down to the right from this image. This is our new home starting in the fall of 2021, so a year and a couple of months away. We have about 15,000 square feet on the first two floors of that beautiful new building that's currently under construction. And so it's a very exciting part of our growth and our future at Penn State. Over the last number of years, we've been one of the fastest growing Hillels in the country. We see somewhere between 1,500 and 2,000 Jewish students every year out of the 4,000 plus that we have on campus. And our staff this year will be 10, for those of you who are looking at that kind of thing. I know a lot of Jewish families, when they look at college, they look at Hillel, they look at study abroad, they look at kosher food, and we have all of those things. And they're all strong and they're all vibrant, and the experiences students have with them are great. Our Hillel sends students all over the world. Pre-COVID, of course, send students all over the world to Israel, where we send 100 plus on Birthright and other study and internship programs every year. We've been to Moldova and Estonia and Lithuania on heritage trips. We've been to Honduras on service trips, and as well as domestic trips throughout the United States in response to hurricanes and floods and the like. One of our signature initiatives really is our leadership development efforts. Jackie's a great example of this. We have some of the best student leaders on campus as part of Hillel. And one of the great things about students at Penn State is they're never involved in just one thing. If you ask Jackie, I'm sure she'll tell you a couple of other student clubs that she's involved with, probably has leadership roles in other organizations as well. And that's the nature of who Penn State students are. They work really hard and they get, you know, an opportunity to make an amazing difference. And it's really exciting.
That was great. Thank you so much, Aaron. I'm curious what other questions people might have. I know we also have Jesse on the call, who oversees all the Israel experiences that Penn State offers through Hillel. So if you're interested in learning more about how you can get to Israel while you're a student, maybe Jesse, I don't know if you have a few words you want to say about how Birthright works or what other opportunities are available for students interested in Israel.
So first, I see there was a question about is there BDS or anti-Israel organizations on campus. Luckily, I think we are very lucky to say that we don't have much of this at all at Penn State. So that is good for us. But, you know, hopefully it will stay that way and we won't have to face that in the future. But, you know, if we do, we are prepared and have the resources to handle it. But so besides that, we have 3 main trips to Israel at our Hillel. The first one is Birthright. So for those of you, I'm sure you've all heard of Birthright, but if you haven't, it's a free 10-day trip to Israel. Just an all-around tour, jam-packed, everything amazing to see in 10 days. So as a Hillel, we have 1 trip in the winter, over winter break, and then we have 2 trip dates in the summer. Typically, each group of students is 40 students from Penn State, and we also allow students to invite their family members or friends that might go to other schools. So that is an awesome time. I am typically the one to staff those trips. Then in addition to Birthright, we also have an Onward Israel program through our Hillel. So for those of you who haven't heard of Onward Israel, it is a 2-month internship program. It's about like 8 to 10 weeks in Tel Aviv for the summer. So it's Penn State students through Penn State Hillel living with each other in apartments in Tel Aviv for the summer in Israel, and you get placed in an internship. So we work with an organization in Israel that helps our students find places to have internships with, and it's a really amazing experience. And we also have a trip called our Perspectives trip, where we take student leaders from different organizations on campus and we introduce them to Israel. It's more of like a political type of trip where you can see the perspectives of, you know, Palestinian perspective, the Israeli perspective, and explore that in a more in-depth level. And we actually sent our new student body president on our trip this past winter, so that's very cool. And besides our Israel trips, we have a group called Lions for Israel, which is just one of our communities in Hillel, and it's Israel programming, and they put on different events. They bring speakers to campus, and we also have their Israel Fellow, which is an Israeli staff member that comes to our Hillel for 1 to usually 2 years, and they help bring Israel to our students. And we're excited to get our new Israel Fellow this summer named Tomer. So yeah, there's a lot of opportunities within Israel. I'm happy to answer any questions from anyone about it. Hopefully that was a good overview for you all. And hopefully, you know, you can all get to Israel one way or another in the future if you haven't been yet.
That was great. Thank you so much, Jesse. We had a question from Julia that I thought was a great question, and maybe I guess anyone can take a stab at it, but she specifically reaches out to Jackie for comments about how you make a really large university feel a little bit smaller. And what are some of the things you have done to foster that more intimate feeling?
Absolutely. So I knew I wanted a large university because of opportunity, but I knew that with choosing a large university, that's something I needed to do. And it's very manageable at Penn State. The way that I found small community within large school was to get involved in different organizations. One thing that was on my side that did help me find small community while at Penn State was entering with the Honors College, but anytime, any academic college that you're part of, like the College of Health, the College of Art, that's a great way to start making the community a little bit smaller. I would also say Hillel and just Jewish students as a whole are a smaller sub-community within Penn State. So being able to have connections to other Jewish students really did make the large university smaller. I found that going to weekly Shabbats, I felt like I was at home. And I was able to see the same faces, and that made the large school feel a lot smaller. I just think it's important to get involved, to join clubs, to meet enough people, and as soon as you start doing that, you're gonna recognize people every time you walk across campus. I run into people all the time. You'd think on a large campus that wouldn't happen, but I think I run into people too much. So that's definitely not a bad problem to have. I think Penn State University is an amazing place to find the small communities. And I'm so glad that I go to a large university and have the best of both worlds.
Cool. Another question that often comes up, oh, and I'll also just point out in case you didn't see it in the chat that Erin also referenced that question and mentioned that Hillel offers a mentoring program for freshmen to connect with older students who will help you find your way. Another question that often comes up, and you know, if Brett, if you want to talk about this from the university's perspective, and then anyone who might want to share their perspective from through the lens of Hillel, but people often ask about diversity on campus in general, and what is acceptance like, not only for Jewish students, but also for LGBTQ students or students with learning differences, or if you're experiencing, you know, maybe a mental health situation, how comfortable will you feel on campus? So I don't know, Brett, if you have any thoughts on that, and then punt that to anyone from the Hillel team.
Yeah, I mean, from the admissions perspective first, and then overall university for sure, you know, we're an inclusive environment. You know, so, you know, a lot of factors are those things are not used in the admissions process. You know, they're not questions that we put on the application. As far as, you know, because we are a state-related public institution, we do not ask about religious background. We do not ask about sexual orientation, those things too in the application. So, you know, all are welcome in the admissions process. And like as a university, like I said, we are all inclusive and very supportive, you know, of all backgrounds, no matter, you know, what the definition might be.
Thank you. Anyone else have a thought they want to add to that from Hillel's perspective, or?
As a student, I can speak to what it's like to have been a Jewish student in a religious minority on campus. I would definitely say that Penn State is a strong network, and they embrace all who embrace Penn State. So I have felt really welcome as a Jewish student. I'll say that because a lot of people are from rural backgrounds, considering Penn State's location, that there are a lot of people who lived in more remote areas and did not grow up with Jewish students or Jewish people in their communities. So you might get to campus and meet people who haven't met Jewish people before, and that's just a great opportunity to introduce someone to your identity and your background, have dialogue. I've found that people meeting Jewish people for the first time have been really open to hearing what you have to say, and have been really welcoming and embracing of who I was. So I really I think it's just a wonderful, joyous community that embraces all people.
That is a beautiful summation. No one else could have said it better. I'm really, really grateful for you for sharing that. And that seems like a wonderful way and a wonderful note to wrap on. Super grateful to Brett and Robin and Jackie, to Erin, Stephanie, and Jesse for sharing so much about this wonderful school and how it might feel to be a student and to make your mark on Penn State. So thank you all so much. I've been ending all of these virtual info sessions by just sharing that, like, I have the pleasure of sitting in a completely unbiased seat, and I don't have to, comment specifically on Penn State or Michigan or Brandeis, which is where I did my undergrad. But really can just say that this time in your life, when you're deciding where it is that you want to sort of turn the page to your next chapter as a young Jewish person in this world, can often feel really overwhelming. And it is, in fact, like one of the first really big decisions that you are making for yourself and for your future. And I just like to remind everyone that no matter where you end up, whether it's Penn State or somewhere else, it is going to be a wonderful experience because you are going to make it a wonderful experience. And when you bring yourself and your whole self to campus, you can't help but have a wonderful time. So even though it feels really overwhelming, just know that there are wonderful teams of people like the group that you've experienced tonight who are going to be there looking out for you and helping you to find your niche and find your way. And we're just really excited for whatever the future holds for you. So thank you everyone for jumping on the bus. Robin has something she wants to say.
I was going to say, thank you so much. It's a great segue. The Hillel staff, Erin, myself, Jesse, we're all here for the students. And I want to introduce Stephanie, who's our Director of Development, who's here for all the parents. So Stephanie.
Hey guys, thank you all for spending all this time with us. I am Stephanie Tepper. I work with our alumni, parents, and friends. And I'm also the resident alum on the team. So I actually attended Penn State and participated in Hillel. And if you like Aaron so far, I was on his hiring team too. So we're here for any questions over the years and today. So we're here for you always.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. You'll notice in the chat, there's a bunch of links available about Penn State Hillel. So please be sure to check those out. We will also be sharing out, as I mentioned, over the next week or so. You'll get all the contact information for the folks you heard from tonight in case you want to follow up individually. And we're just so grateful. Thanks for taking some time out of your evening to spend time with us and to hang out with us on this road trip. And we wish you a lot of success and a wonderful rest of your summer. And that's all from us. So thanks a whole lot. And we will see you later. Take care, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Hey.
Now you get the folks who turn their screens off and they're like in the other room doing something.
Dina, I just want to say thank you for organizing this.
Oh, absolutely. This has been a lot of fun. Thank you. This was the most robust team. No one else brought anyone else from their team on. So this was really cool. And Stephanie, I'm sorry. I didn't know you had something specific you wanted to mention for parents. So I didn't mean to gloss over you. But,
No, don't worry about it.
And Jackie, holy cow, Hillel is really lucky to have you. But you're fantastic. And thanks for sharing your experience.
Thank you so much. I was so honored to be able to speak today.
Yeah, we were really lucky to get to hear from you. So awesome. Well, thank you guys. And I had mentioned to Robin, so we'll be sharing out all the contact information of the whole list of registrants, all 74 folks who signed up. I'll deduplicate that list first. And then I've been trying to gather info on where our seniors are headed in the fall. I know we for sure have at least one and certainly more who are headed your direction. So I promised Robin I'd make that information available as well. They're all wonderful, wonderful teens, and they'll be a great addition to your community. And we just like to know that we've passed them off and they're in really good hands. So thank you for looking out for them too.
Thank you. And if any of your students, parents, or anyone have any questions, we're all here to answer them. We have a really great team and amazing students. And yeah, so thank you. Sorry, my son's crying.
That's okay. Thanks a lot. And
Thank
enjoy your summer.
Thank you.
Get some time.
Jackie, thank you again.
Thank you. Jackie, you're amazing. Hugs and kisses.
All right. Be safe, everyone.